The claim that Ukrainians viewed the Nazis as liberators when they invaded Ukrainian territory during World War II is a myth that has been perpetuated by certain groups and individuals over the years. This video will aim to debunk this myth once and for all. The period leading up to the Nazi invasion of Ukraine was characterized by significant political and social upheaval. In 1928, the Soviet Union initiated a series of economic and agricultural reforms known as the First Five-Year Plan. This was then followed by the collectivization of agriculture in the early 1930s. These policies were intended to transform the Soviet economy and increase agricultural production. However, a widespread famine would follow, particularly in Ukraine, South Russia, and Kazakhstan. Millions of Ukrainians perished during the Great Famine of 1932 to 1933. This became known as the Holodomor by those claiming it was a genocide. Originally the Nazis and their collaborators, but later the West would pursue this narrative as well. When Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, Ukrainians found themselves in a precarious situation. While some Ukrainian nationalists initially saw the Nazi invasion as an opportunity to gain independence from Soviet rule, this sentiment was short-lived. The Nazi occupation of Ukraine was brutal and oppressive, characterized by mass killings, deportations, and forced labor. The Nazis viewed Ukrainians as racially inferior and aimed to exploit Ukraine's resources for the German war effort. Contrary to the myth that Ukrainians welcomed the Nazis as liberators, the reality on the ground was one of despair and suffering. The Nazi regime imposed a reign of terror and persecution, targeting not only Jews, but also Ukrainian nationalists and intellectuals. The Ukrainian nationalist movement, which had sought independence from the Soviet Union, was suppressed by the Nazis, who did not want to encourage any form of Ukrainian nationalism that might hinder their rule. It is crucial to acknowledge that while collaboration with the Nazis did occur among Ukrainian nationalists and fascists, it was not representative of the overall Ukrainian population. According to historical records, a small faction of Ukrainians chose to collaborate with the Nazi regime, often for practical reasons, and in many cases out of fear and desperation. For instance, a study conducted by historian Alexander Dąlan estimated that there were approximately 15,000 to 20,000 Ukrainians who served in the German police and military units during the Nazi occupation. This number, when compared to the population of Ukraine at the time and the amount that resisted the Nazis, reflects a relatively small percentage of the Ukrainian population. On the other side of the spectrum, the significant role of Ukrainians in resisting the Nazi occupation is also evident in historical data. Various partisan groups, both communists and nationalists, played an active role in opposing the Nazi regime. While their efforts were not always unified, they demonstrated the resilience of Ukrainians in the face of oppressive occupation. Furthermore, the statistics on Ukrainians who fought for the Soviet Union during World War II emphasize the significant contribution they made to the Red Army's efforts. An estimated 4.5 million Ukrainians served in the Red Army, forming a substantial portion of the Soviet military force. Their participation in the war effort is a testament to the fact that a considerable segment of the Ukrainian population actively resisted the Nazi occupation, thus contradicting the notion that Ukrainians overwhelmingly welcomed the Nazis as liberators. The Nazi occupation of Ukraine during World War II was a period marked by a series of horrifying atrocities, and the suffering of the Ukrainian population was immense. To comprehend the extent of these horrors, it is crucial to consider the following statistics. Massacres and executions were tragically commonplace. The Babi Yar massacre in September 1941, where over 2 days the Nazis, aided by local collaborators, executed an estimated 33,771 Jewish people in a ravine in Kiev, serves as a chilling example. Over the course of the war, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian Jews and others were killed in mass shootings in large-scale massacres such as Babi Yar. Deportations and forced labor further compounded the suffering. The Nazis forcibly deported hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians to Germany for forced labor. By the war's end, over 2.4 million Ukrainians were estimated to have been subjected to forced labor in Nazi Germany. the conditions were deplorable, and the mortality rate among these forced laborers was shockingly high. The Holocaust in Ukraine was one of the most horrifying chapters. Approximately 1.5 million Ukrainian Jews were estimated to have been murdered during the Holocaust, representing a significant portion of the total Jewish population in the region. The Nazis established concentration and extermination camps in Ukraine, where hundreds of thousands of people were systemically killed. Following the devastating Nazi occupation, Ukraine found itself in ruins and its population decimated. However, with the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945, the Soviet Red Army once again entered Ukrainian territory, liberating it from their oppressors. The post-war period was marked by a significant effort by the Soviet Union to rebuild Ukraine and its economy. The reconstruction was comprehensive, with the focus on rebuilding cities, infrastructure, and industries that had been devastated during the war. Soviet authorities also invested in education and cultural development, emphasizing the importance of preserving Ukrainian heritage and language within the broader framework of the Soviet Union. This period saw the rebuilding of Kiev and the resurgence of Ukrainian culture through literature, art, and education. The myth that Ukrainians viewed the Nazis as liberators is a distortion of history that ignores the harsh realities of Nazi occupation. While some Ukrainian nationalists may have initially seen the Nazis as an opportunity for independence, their hopes were soon dashed by the brutality of the occupiers. The resistance to Nazi rule and the suffering experienced by the Ukrainian population during World War II paint a more accurate picture of the Ukrainian experience. It is more than important to approach historical narratives with nuance and a full understanding of the complexities involved, rather than perpetuating myths that oversimplify the past, especially for the sake of Cold War propaganda against the force which ended Nazis' tyranny and the Holocaust. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy this video, I would recommend checking out other content on my channel or the website www.iread.website, a website where I post articles that talk about topics similar to this video. And I would also recommend becoming a member for exclusive content.